I just feel so blessed to have taught in that district. Every person I encountered just taught me something else about how to treat people, about how to be successful, about how to reach kids and impact their lives. And I'm very grateful for my time at the Monroe School District.
Welcome to episode 34 of Wisco Legacy. I'm your host, Corey Kundert. Today we have Mike Flanagan. Mike led the Blackhawk girls basketball team to a state title in 2019 and amassed a career record of 309-71 in 15 years at the helm. Although Mike is known as a legend on the court, he's also an incredible educator. He spent the majority of his career at the school district of Monroe and was recently named the principal at Darlington Elementary and Middle School. On this episode, we talk about his career as an educator, his next steps into administration, his coaching career, pursuing your dream, and more. We did touch on an event that happened last week. Mike and I mutually agreed to delay this episode, but I wanted to include that piece of the conversation as he's involved in a great event that does a lot of good. Be on the lookout for that event next year. For the Blackhawk faithful, you may enjoy some of our previous episodes. We've had a number of people connected to Blackhawk on the podcast. Go check out our previous episodes wherever you're listening. And now, let's dive into episode 34 with Mike Flanagan.
Hi, I'm Mike Flanagan. I'm the elementary middle school principal at Darlington, Wisconsin, and this is my Wisco Legacy.
Welcome to Wisco Legacy. I'm your host, Corey Kundert. Really excited today to have Mike Flanagan on. Mike is the newly appointed principal for the elementary and middle school in Darlington, Wisconsin. He has incredible background in girls basketball, coaching for Blackhawk. Really excited to talk all things that. And Mike, thanks for joining Wisco Legacy.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So you grew up in the southwest part of Wisconsin has been your upbringing. You grew up in Argyle. Can you talk about growing up in Argyle, Wisconsin?
You bet. I grew up on a dairy farm between Argyle and Monticello, about 7 miles out of Argyle. And so hard work was a part of my everyday experience. Got up really early to milk cows and do chores, and then got ready for school and headed off there and was active in a lot of organizations at school, but really my roots are in that hard work and that dairy farming background that so many people in this area have in their families.
You see that a lot, especially in smaller towns in Wisconsin, and it's just a big part of our culture here in Wisconsin. I'm sure you learned a lot on the farm that's helped you throughout life.
I really did. My parents were very supportive of us kids. I have 6 siblings, and so there was a gap between the first 4 and myself and my younger brother and younger sister. My younger brother is still on the farm, and he bought that from my dad a few years back. But yeah, there were just so many lessons to be learned from that childhood, especially just the appreciation of what we had and understanding that good things came from to people who are willing to put in the time and make the sacrifices necessary to live a life. So I can't say enough about my upbringing and the values that it instilled in me. And those are some things that have certainly allowed me to do the various, fill the various roles that I've had throughout my adulthood.
Absolutely. Sports have been a big part of your adult life with coaching. I know. I think you were one of my middle school football coaches back in the day. Can you talk about some sports you were involved in growing up?
Yeah, so time was tight on the farm, so we really were allowed to do a sport, and I chose football, and so a lot of people are surprised to find out, given the success I had as a basketball coach. I didn't play basketball in high school, but sports was something that my brother and I certainly participated in together. That was a great bond that we had, and then, as you said, when I got employed at Monroe Middle School as an English teacher, I dove right into various sports, football, as you said, and then boys and girls basketball. I even did a little bit of track. And so it was a diverse experience when it came to coaching. and that all led to the preparation that was necessary for being a varsity coach eventually.
Absolutely. So after you graduated high school, you went to UW Platteville. You talk about your experience there.
I loved my time at Platteville. Made a lot of great friends. Had some great professors. I felt like I had a top notch education, and participated in a lot of intramurals while I was there, and we had a lot of fun doing that. Again, it just reaffirmed that interest in sports. But it was really nice to be around people who had similar backgrounds to mine, but then also to meet people who came from a lot different walks of life. Certainly, UW Platteville is not the mecca of diversity, but at the same time, there were a lot of people there whose backgrounds were different from mine and from the people that I had been associated with. So just broadening my horizons, getting off the farm and meeting a lot of different people, it really gave me a worldliness that I didn't have before.
Absolutely. And I assume you majored in education at Platteville because you became a teacher. What inspired you to pursue a career in education?
Yeah, I feel like it's unique when a person can say that when he or she was in seventh grade, that career path was there in front of him or her. But for me, that was the case. I was really young. I had some great teachers who inspired me to pursue education, and I was always pretty successful in school. But I knew from a very early age that I wanted to work with young people, and I wanted that to be my way of living. So I credit some members of my family who were in education. I credit the teachers and coaches whom I had, and it's really been the thing. I didn't really ever consider anything else when it came to career options. I knew I wanted to teach, and then later it became apparent to me that coaching was a great extension of that classroom.
I never had you as a teacher, but you always had so much fun. I know walking in the halls in middle school, you were high fiving kids, and just everybody enjoyed being in your class. And you're an awesome coach for me in football. So, yeah, I'm glad you pursued your passion. And can you talk about, since you spent a large majority of your career at the school district in Monroe, can you talk about your experience in Monroe and how that helped shape you?
Yeah, for sure. I just feel so blessed to have taught in that district. It's a really progressive school in terms of the things that they're doing to impact student learning and the growth that I had as a teacher there, the things that I learned. It's just immense. But as you said, I always felt like it was a great place to be. A lot of different kids whom I encountered, and my goal was always to, as you said, make those relationships and really get to know not only the kids who were in my classroom, but any kid who walked down the hallway. I felt like Monroe was a great place to start. And as you said, once I was there, it became the bulk of my experience working in Monroe Middle School. I had some great administrators over the years, had some great coworkers over the years. And every person I encountered just taught me something else about how to treat people, about how to be successful, about how to reach kids and impact their lives. And I'm very grateful for my time at the Monroe School District.
And I'm sure the Monroe School District is grateful you chose to work there. I know you made an impact on my life in the just being on the football field and being in the hallways, and I know you made a tremendous impact for a lot of students that went through Monroe Middle School.
Thanks.
Can you so you recently were named principal at Darlington Elementary and Middle School. This is a next step in your progression in your educational career. What inspired you to become a principal, and what inspired you to head over to Darlington?
Yeah, I feel like the leaders who mentored me over the years, as I said, I had some great administrators. My most recent administrator, Brian Boehm at the middle school, is one of the smartest individuals I've ever been around, and really has a vision for what he wants that building to be. And so it's always been in the back of my mind that if the opportunity arose and I felt like I was ready to champion a vision of my own for a school building. And so when the Darlington job came open, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, not knowing what would happen. And as you said, everything worked out. But I think Darlington is a wonderful community. The people I've met so far are just so supportive. And if there's anything, people who are around this area know that it is that the community of Darlington cares a lot about their kids, cares a lot about their academic success, cares a lot about their extracurricular pursuits, their theatrical pursuits. It's really a place that puts the kids in the school district at the center of the community. And so I just feel like it's the right fit for me, and I'm really looking forward to getting started and trying to actuate a vision that I have, and to be that servant leader, to serve first, to make people's lives better, to be there for my staff, and to make sure that the things that I'm doing are advancing their cause, and helping them to achieve what they're there to do, which is to educate every kid, and to make lives better. And so I'm just, like I said, enthusiastic about the opportunity. Can't wait to get started. Already started, even though my official date is July 1. There are certainly things that have come up, and I am happy to be on this journey, and can't wait to see where it takes me.
I'm really excited for you to help lead the vision there. And what how do you feel about that transition from coming out of the classroom to now being an administrator? It's probably a big transition. Can you talk about that?
It is, yeah. I feel like obviously the years of experience that I've had, and the multitude of things that I've done in the classroom, and I was at the middle school there, as you said, for many years. But prior to that, I was the lead teacher at an at-risk high school there in Monroe. I taught for 3 years at Blackhawk in the high school English department before coming back to Monroe this year. So I've been around, seen different systems, and so take a little bit from every place that I've gone. But I think that there will be some things that will obviously stay the same. And it's going to be about relationships. It's going to be about making those connections with kids, but then also dealing with adults in a little bit different way. Um, I really believe that my coaching experience will transcend over to this role, because when we think about it, leadership, although it looks different in every domain, there's a lot of things that carry over. And so, for me, this is just a different kind of team. I have different kinds of point guards and captains and things like that. But it's really about finding people's strengths and then empowering them to use those strengths to do their jobs at their fullest potential. So I'm gonna be coaching again, just a different kind of team. We won't be bouncing a ball, but we'll be we'll be affecting kids' lives.
Yeah, that's really great. That's a really good transition into your coaching career. So you spent, I believe, 15 years as the head coach for the Blackhawk girls basketball team. First of all, what inspired you to coach girls basketball?
At the middle school in Monroe, I had experience with both. I coached, as you said, football, so I knew about those animals. You were one of those animals, and then boys basketball and girls basketball. It was there. I've always said to people, to me, it was never about coaching girls basketball versus boys basketball. I don't think I would have done anything different had I coached on the other side. It's still about expectations. It's still about clarity. It's still about finding roles and helping people embrace those roles. But certainly I was blessed with some very, very talented athletes, some very, very fine young ladies. And again, we think about in life when we have different junctures, at which we take on new challenges, and the timing couldn't have been better. It was in 2006, 2007, I took over the program. There was a group of young kids coming up who certainly possessed some potential, and so they just needed somebody to point them in the right direction, and again give them that vision of what we wanted to be. One of the first things that somebody said to me when I took the job was that I was walking into a tough situation because of how high the expectations were. And my response to that is I wouldn't want it any other way. We were willing to dream things that other people had maybe dreamt but had not been able to make a reality. So we knew that getting to a state tournament was something that was within our reach if we did things the right way, and we were not afraid to dream big. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is that we put a system in place. We stayed true to that system. We stayed consistent in our messaging, and then we had kids who were willing to put in the work and willing to buy into the mission, and great things happen when those things all come together.
Absolutely. In those 15 years, you racked over 300 wins. There's a state championship in there. You had another season where you went undefeated, but it was cut short due to COVID. Can you talk about the experience of winning a state title and then following that up with the challenge of not being able to finish out an undefeated season the
Yeah,
following year?
and you certainly, I know a lot of great coaches who have never been able to win a state title. So I know how blessed I am to have been able to experience that. It was a dream come true, and in 2018 we were knocking on that door and had an abysmal day shooting. Probably could have been another state championship, as you said. One of our best teams didn't get to complete the season, but again, if you can't find a way to learn from every experience you have, then it's a missed opportunity. So to go from that elation of winning the whole thing and then having that opportunity the next year cut short, we really tried to message that as well as we could to the girls, make them understand that as disappointed as they were, that there were a lot worse things that could happen, and certainly those kids are stronger for having gone through that, even though it's something I wouldn't wish upon any athlete. But just amazing kids who are able to put their egos aside, willing to put the team first, and yeah, very few coaches can say that the best team that they ever had didn't get to finish that out. But someday we'll be talking about the pandemic in general and all of the things that it disrupted, and we'll have some stories to tell about the unique times that we lived through.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't imagine being 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, going on that run of, I think you were 26-0 at the time. And if I remember right, you had a really long winning streak as a team. Um, Having that just cut short, it would be really hard to navigate that at that age. And like you said, there's every opportunity is a lesson. And I hope those athletes took that, and I'm sure they've implemented some things from that. So yeah, I appreciate. I'm sure I couldn't imagine just going through that. Anyway, Blackhawk as a school district has had a lot of success with their athletics. It's a very small school. South Wayne's a very small town. While you were coaching there, can you talk about the culture of success that Blackhawk had?
Yeah, I feel like on both the football front and the girls basketball, and certainly those are the two that are spotlighted the most because of the level of success. But uh, those athletes at Blackhawk on both the boys and the girls sides, they just they I think toughness is the ultimate X factor with those kids. We were really intent on our teams about not using excuses, not complaining, making sure that at the end of the day, we always said it. If anybody were to come and watch us play, we wanted the response of that spectator. If it was the only game they ever saw, we would want that person to say those those kids play harder than any kids that I've ever watched. And certainly on the football field, our football players, a lot of games I walked away from saying nobody hits harder than those Blackhawk kids do. So I think it's toughness, and we know that toughness is two pronged, right? That you've got the physical toughness that comes from the preparation and putting in the work, but then just that mentality. And I feel like success breeds success. Certainly, we fed off of what football did, and football in turn, fed off of what we were doing. But we've seen it in Monroe before too, where on both the girls and the guys' sides of things, kids achieving great success, and success becomes an expectation. It becomes a way of doing things. And I feel like at that small school, the athletic success can be attributed to that. And then, of course, again, you come back to your community and what they prioritize. And the people at Blackhawk certainly they take great pride in the accolades that their young athletes amass. So that knowing that people are interested in what you do and want to see you succeed is obviously a motivator to put in the effort.
You've had a number of student athletes play at the next level. Can you talk about some of the impact that an athlete like that can have on a small program like that?
Yeah, just like winning a state championship can put the seed in young people's minds that it can be done. Seeing someone uh, elevate to that next level reminds kids in a small town that it's not impossible. And so, the kids who come after, a Jen Wellnitz or a Bailey Butler, they aspire to have that same kind of success. And not every athlete can reach that. Obviously, I mean, there's a lot of intangibles that preclude some athletes from maybe reaching that. But just knowing that it's not out of reach, knowing that it's something that can be attained, I feel like we've always had kids, and throw those exceptions aside, just kids who have provided that model for the next generation of kids. And one thing we're really proud, or I'm really proud about, is just the sustained success that we had over the 15 years that I was there. Because in a small school, it's very possible that an amazing group of kids comes together at the right time, and you've got those 2 or 3 years of sustained success. But I was really proud of the fact that we were able to do that over a long period of time. And we always wanted to make sure that at the end of the season, people would say that we maximized or exceeded our potential. We wanted to reach our ceiling every single campaign. And I feel like, over the 15 years, we did that.
Can you talk about some of the memorable moments you had? I know you won a state title, and we kind of briefly went over that, but can you talk about some of the memorable moments you had as a coach?
Yeah, I think it always goes back to the kids. Whether it's seeing that kid who didn't believe in herself become a player that no one really thought that she would be. I had some amazing point guards over the years, and that's always to me been just a special relationship, because regardless of that kid's talent level or the skill set that kid has. We always said that our success ebbed and flowed based on the quality of our point guards. And part of that is can you have a kid who's an extension of the coach on the floor? And we've just had some very cerebral kids who've been able to go out there and in essence, they've been the ones who've been able to facilitate uh, the uh, the success. And so I think about those kids. I think about the captains that we've had who have had to do some tough things. Over the years, we had some captains who had to address some really tough situations. And that you have a really strong culture if you as a head coach are not the one who's having to intervene when conflict arises, but when you have kids brave enough, that they're courageous enough to confront the breakdowns in culture that teams are inevitably going to have. So those are the things that, like you said, the state championships, the conference championship, the regional championships. Those are wonderful. But I'll always remember the kids that I coached and the impact that they've had on me, the lessons that I've learned from them, and the relationships that exist still to this day.
Mm-hmm. You touched on something there that I don't think gets spoken out enough about is this the student athlete has an impact on you. You tend to think about the coach's impact uh, that the student athlete has, like the impact that you have on the student athlete, but you don't always think about the impact that the student athlete has on the coach. Can you talk a little bit about how some of your student athletes have helped mold you into who you are and helped you uh, move forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I've always been reminded that getting to the root cause of any situation is imperative. And so, finding out what motivates kids, finding out their experiences, what's shaped them into who they are, and of course, again, that goes back to the classroom too. Building those relationships and making those connections. But I feel like athletes and students, but athletes have taught me that it's important that we don't react based on a situation, or that we don't react based on first impressions, that we're willing to work with the tough kids, the difficult kids, just as much as we are the compliant kids, because certainly it's nice to have kids on the team who are yes sir kind of kids and just do automatically what a coach asks. But I think being able to reach the kids who maybe aren't as willing to bridge that gap. It's just taught me a lot about persistence. It's taught me a lot about not making judgments, and about appreciating the individual strengths and weaknesses that everyone who walks the face of this planet has, and knowing that there's value in every single human being, and it's sometimes just a matter of finding that and tapping into it.
Mm-hmm. So after 15 years, you decided to step away from coaching basketball. What led into that decision, and what was that transition like for you?
It was a lot of factors. We had a granddaughter, and so it was right at that point that you start thinking about priorities. I had certainly devoted a lot of my life to coaching, and don't regret it for a moment, but starting to want to get some of that time back, or reallocate or repurpose that time. Uh, we had achieved a lot, as you said. And so that sense of accomplishment, and being at peace with what we'd done, and how we'd done it just felt like it was the right time to transition into something different. I did have thoughts in the back of my mind about pursuing an administrative degree, because it's something that had always been on a back burner due to the demands of coaching. And so it opened up some avenues for that. But sometimes it's difficult to put a finger on an exact cause. It's a combination of a lot of things, and I just felt like it was the right time to transition away, and I haven't regretted it once. And the nice thing about it is basketball is something in which I'll always be involved. Very active still in the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association. I'm the fundraising chair for the AllStar games, which are coming up at the end of this month. Still doing work with the Six Rivers, and really staying in contact with coaches, because there are a lot of great coaches who are, more importantly, great people. And so being able to interact with them, focus not on what my team's doing, but what some of my colleagues' teams are doing, and really step back and change my focus, but still keep the sport that I love, and the conference that I love, central to my life, even though I'm not directly coaching a team.
Yeah, you definitely have the love of the game, and you I'm glad to see you're still involved in a lot of different ways. You touched on family when you were talking there, and being a coach, like you said, you're devoting a lot of time to other people's kids and coaching the sport. Can you talk about that support system you've had around you throughout these years?
You bet. Well, it starts with my wife. I mean, she has allowed me to do this, and certainly it's taken a lot of time away from our relationship over the years. Those 15 years, she certainly had to make sacrifices. We had four children, and when they were younger, it was her taking care of them, bringing them to the games, and people always laughed about it was like mother duck leading the little ducklings along, and then of course the kids, as a byproduct of that, they made a lot of sacrifices, and so I was able to get to a lot of my son's events, because they generally didn't conflict, but from time to time there were games for them that I missed because of my own coaching. My daughter would kill me if I didn't mention that I missed her college graduation from UW Platteville because I was coaching in a tournament in Dubuque, and certainly she understands. Dad was a coach her whole life, but it doesn't mean that she wasn't hurt a little bit by that. And so to have them understand how much I love that that part of life, and what I did, and to make allowances for that, and to encourage me. And they were the first people to congratulate me after a big victory, but they were also sometimes the only people who were consoling me after disappointment. So as you said, Corey, a person has to have that support system. And then I had some great, again, administrators and coworkers at Monroe and at Blackhawk, who were willing to allow me to do what I did, or to pick up the slack. I mean, during a state championship, a state tournament week, it's kind of difficult to get everything done. And so the people who filled in for me then, and then just the great coaches that I have, and there's relationships with, and there's just too many to even mention. But sometimes they're the only ones who know exactly how you're feeling, and so they're always a call away. And again, I hope that now, being in this different role, that I can be that sounding board for them, and I know that I am. So it's a lonely profession sometimes, and so having people around you who understand and encourage, that's vital, right?
So you mentioned a big event coming up, June 24th, I believe, the Six Rivers All-Star Game. You want to talk a bit about that?
You bet. So this is the 16th year of the games. It's at Albany High School, as you said, on June 24th. There's a girls' game that tips off at 6 o'clock p.m. and then we have a 3-point shootout that involves girls and boys between games. And the boys game starts at about 8 o'clock. These are all graduated seniors who were all conference, whether it be first team, second team, or honorable mention, and so it's a great way to further recognize that achievement. We have raised money for the event. Or through the event, we've raised money for the American Family Children's Hospital in Madison. That's the beneficiary of our efforts. Jerry Mortimer, who was the longtime boys basketball coach at Blackhawk, was the originator of the event. And after a few years, and he wasn't willing to, not I shouldn't say not willing, wasn't able to continue directing or organizing. I certainly didn't want to see it die. And so I couldn't tell you what year I took over, but it was quite a few years ago. And it's, as I said, now that I'm not a head coach, it's a great way to stay in touch with the conference. But we've raised, I don't have an exact amount, but each year we raise right around $1,000. And so if we calculate that out, I would say we have to be pushing or near $20,000 over the course of the event. And so it's just a great testament to the character of the conference and the people that we have in the Six Rivers. And we think about small school conferences, there just aren't any as successful as the Six Rivers when you think about the achievements of those teams. So great event and a great way to see those kids play one last time and to take some rivals and become friends for a while. I mean, you played, you were involved in athletics, and I'm sure that there were some folks from Stoughton or Mount Horeb that you maybe didn't think you liked a whole lot as competitors, but then if you get a chance to meet someone and you realize that there's a lot more similar about you than different.
Absolutely. So June 24th at Albany High School. Tickets, you can buy tickets at the door.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. So we've gone to just a free will donation. So getting people there is really important, and we like to let people give what they're willing to give. But we've had some very generous spectators, obviously, and again, understanding the cause that we support through the admissions. It's just important that we get people there. And one of the byproducts of COVID has been that people stopped going to events like that, but we're gradually seeing people come back out to games. And so we're hoping that people are comfortable coming in, and certainly if someone didn't want to come to the games but wanted to make a donation, they could just reach out to me and we could make that happen. But it's all about it's all about the kids that play, but it's more importantly about the kids who have the misfortune of being in the hospital, and can we do something to brighten their day?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good, really great cause. That's awesome. So we've talked about your time growing up in small town Wisconsin. We've talked about being in the education field for your entire career, pursuing your passion, coaching. Do you have advice for anybody who wants to pursue their passion?
I think the biggest thing is not to let anyone discourage you. That you're willing to put in the time. I mean, obviously, my beginnings were really meager. I didn't know a lot about basketball, but it was through working with the great coaches who I worked with in Monroe, and then stepping into that varsity role. It was all about learning. And so if you have a passion, first understand that putting in the work is the prerequisite to success, but not being afraid to make mistakes. And I'd say that's the other thing too. I still have so much that I could learn about the game of basketball, or learn about about being an instructor. I'm going to learn a lot about being a principal on the fly, but not being afraid to pursue that passion, not being afraid to dream, and understanding that nothing comes without hard work. And if you're willing to work hard and reach out, network with other people. Obviously, what you're doing here with this podcast, how awesome that you're able to bring a message to others and inspire. Somebody has maybe watched one of your episodes and has said, "Wow." Listening to that person makes me think that I could do something that maybe I've just been delaying because of fear, and knowing that inadequacy is only as prominent as we allow it to be. That if we're willing to learn and work hard, that we can do a lot of great things.
Absolutely. Really great advice. Anything else you want to add about anything we've talked about? Otherwise, we can transition to some fun questions.
Yeah, I just think that working with young people is the most rewarding job a person could do. There's a lot of knocks on education right now. There's a severe shortage of people entering the trade, and a lot of those people are maybe looking at the financial aspects or the hardships. But uh, I know that every day I look forward to working with young people, and the results have been more gracious than I ever could have imagined uh, them to be. And so I hope that people continue to understand that our young people need adults in their lives who are willing to help bring out their greatness, and to make teaching, coaching, whatever it is, uh, a profession, because it's a noble one, and it's one that is severely underserved.
All right. So I have 3 rapid fire questions around the state of Wisconsin, and then a couple questions to wrap us up. So these next 3 are more fun questions. So,
Gotcha.
what's your favorite restaurant in Wisconsin?
My favorite restaurant in Wisconsin. I like Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm a sucker for wings, and so I like them hot, mango habanero, traditional,
Nice.
blue cheese. Yeah, so that's kind of my go-to, I'd say.
Nice. That's awesome. What's your favorite event in Wisconsin?
Well, I like the fish fry in Argyle. I don't always make it, but they have a fish fry at the end of June, and of course, being from Argyle and still having family there, when I am able to go and take my family, it's just a great event because of the community. It's thrived over the years, and we've seen some local festivals start to dwindle, but that one has stayed pretty strong, and you get a great meal, but more importantly, I just get to see a lot of special people, and so that's always been my favorite festival. And it's hard to beat cheese days, of course, too. But that there, I'm more of a visitor at the Argyle Fish Fry. I'm kind of an insider.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I haven't been to that in years. I need to head over one of these years again. Um, Last rapid fire question. Where's your favorite place to hang out in Wisconsin?
Woodford, it's a really big town, like 85 people. Yeah, this is where I live is my favorite place to be. It doesn't take a whole lot for me to be entertained or satisfied. So I don't really go very many places outside of work. I like the peace and quiet that this small town where my wife grew up and where I now live, it's my favorite place on earth.
That's great. All right, last 2 questions I have for you here. How has Wisconsin helped shape you into who you are today?
I think if we come back full circle to where I started, this is an area that values hard work. This is an area that values stewardship of the land. And I know agriculture is an ever evolving profession, and that a lot of the small farms are struggling to survive. But certainly, as much as I sometimes lamented the situation growing up, I didn't like milking cows. I didn't like being in that haymow on days like today. But it reminded me that hard work is rewarding, and that there's a lot of satisfaction at the end of a day of hard work, a day well spent.
Absolutely. All right. Last question I have here for you. I ask every guest I have on the podcast, almost every guest. I had a repeat guest, so I didn't have to ask it again. But this ties back into the name Wisco Legacy. Big question here for you. When all is said and done, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I hope it's a legacy of kindness. I hope it's a legacy of humility. I hope it's a legacy of selflessness, and that I've put uh, other people first as much as possible. That I've changed lives, and hopefully everyone that I've encountered in some way, shape, or form, I've been able to have a positive impact on them. But really, like I said, I positivity is something that I've wanted to be, uh, a marker of my life. And so, is someone who has faith and tries to abide by that. But yeah, the selflessness, the humility. I hope that's what people think of when they think of Mike Flanagan.
Absolutely. I've known you for years, like swinging back to being my middle school football coach. And I obviously know a ton of people that went to your classes, and you've made a tremendous impact for the people that I know and the people that have been in your life. So you're doing an incredible job with that. Living up to that legacy. So I'm excited for you to transition that over to Darlington and make an incredible impact over there.
Well, thank you, and I will. The only thing I guarantee is that I'll do my best, and hope that it's good enough.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you hopping on Wisco Legacy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
So many great takeaways from today's episode. You could see the passion in his eyes as he talked about coaching, teaching, and impacting youth. Thank you, Mike, for hopping on the podcast to talk about your journey. I can't wait to see the impact you make in Darlington. If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Wisco Legacy.